Hello, English learners, and welcome back to the best podcast that helps you speak English clearly, confidently, and naturally. Daily English conversations are the most powerful way to practice English speaking and improve fast. And here's something exciting. We've started a private community where serious learners like you can join real-time English conversation groups. If you want to speak English with others every day, just leave a comment that says, "I'm ready," and we'll add you to the list. In today's episode, we're taking you on a journey not just to practice English, but to explore a new culture. Let's talk about traveling to India. Catherine, before we dive into your experience in India, let's talk for a moment about how real conversations like the one we're having now are one of the fastest ways to learn English.
Absolutely. The moment you shift from just studying English to actually using it to communicate, everything begins to change. English stops being a subject and starts becoming a real tool for connection. It comes alive. That's exactly why conversations like this are so powerful. They're not scripted lessons, they're real, natural interactions. They reflect how English is truly used in everyday life, with all its rhythm, flow, and spontaneity.
So let's get into your story. Catherine, why India? What made you choose it for your trip?
I think I was always fascinated by the idea of India. The colors, the culture, the history. It just felt intense in a beautiful way. I wanted a destination that would challenge me, inspire me, and give me a completely different perspective on life. And India offered all of that. Also, let's be honest, as an English speaker, it's amazing how widely English is used there. It made it easier to connect with people, but also gave me a chance to practice English with non-native speakers in real situations.
That sounds incredible. So tell me, how was the trip itself? You flew from Turkey, right?
Yes, I flew out from Istanbul. It was a long journey, around 6.5 hours in the air. I had a direct flight to New Delhi, which helped a lot. Honestly, the flight itself was smooth, but I was a bit nervous before landing. It was my first time in India, and I didn't really know what to expect when I arrived. But I have to say, the experience at the airport was much better than I thought. The immigration officers were polite and professional. They asked me a few basic questions about the purpose of my visit, how long I planned to stay, and where I was staying. Nothing too intense.
I can imagine that moment stepping into a whole new world for the first time. So once you got out of the airport and into the city, how was it? What were your first impressions?
Oh, James, I still remember that first hour outside the airport. The air was warm, the streets were full of energy, and everything felt alive. It was loud, colorful, and a bit chaotic, but in the best way possible.
And how did people treat you?
Honestly, they were incredible. Indian hospitality is something you don't just hear about. You feel it. From the moment I arrived, I was met with kindness and curiosity. Whether I was in a busy city like Delhi or a quieter town in the south, people were welcoming and generous. Many of them were eager to speak in English, which made it easier for me to communicate, but also gave me real-life opportunities to practice. What really touched me was how open people were. They'd ask about my journey, my country, and even invite me to have tea or join a family meal.
Let's turn to something that plays a vital role in any travel experience. What was your experience with Indian cuisine during your trip?
Oh, wow. It was an adventure for my taste buds. The variety is just overwhelming in the best possible way. From busy street food corners in Delhi to quiet, home-cooked meals in a village in Kerala, every dish felt like a discovery. The spices, the textures, the way flavors are layered, it's unlike anything I'd tried before. Some dishes were fiery hot, yes, but always full of character. It wasn't just about the heat, it was about the balance and depth of flavor.
That sounds delicious. I've always heard Indian cuisine is diverse depending on the region. Did you notice that?
Absolutely. Northern food is totally different from Southern food. In the North, you get rich gravies, naan, butter chicken, and paneer dishes. But when I traveled south, the meals were lighter, more coconut, rice based dishes, lots of vegetarian options, and everything served on a banana leaf. One of my favorite experiences was eating a traditional South Indian thali. It's a big plate with small portions of many different dishes. You get sweet, sour, salty, spicy, all in one meal. And you eat it with your hands, which was new for me but made the experience more authentic.
Did you get used to the spices? I mean, it's no secret that Indian food can be really intense for people not used to it.
The first few days were a challenge. I won't lie. I remember trying a dish called pani puri and it blew my mind. Spicy, tangy, cold, and crunchy, all in one bite. But once I got past the initial shock, I started to fall in love with the flavors. I also started asking locals for recommendations or for something medium spicy, and most of them were happy to guide me.
That's such a beautiful way to describe it. And speaking of culture, were there any specific places in India that really stood out to you emotionally or culturally?
Yes, so many. But if I had to choose, I'd say Varanasi and Jaipur left the deepest marks on me. Varanasi felt like a city frozen in time. When I stood on the ghats at sunrise, watching people bathe in the Ganges and perform rituals, I was overwhelmed by the spiritual energy. There was this quiet power in the air, something I've never felt before. It was peaceful, but also deeply humbling. It made me reflect on life, death, and how we all search for meaning in different ways. I remember just sitting there for hours, listening to the temple bells, watching the candles floating down the river. No words can really describe it. You just feel it.
I've seen photos of Varanasi, but it sounds like being there in person is a whole different experience.
Absolutely. Photos can't capture the smell of incense, the chanting voices, or the feeling of standing next to centuries of tradition. And then there's Jaipur, completely different vibe. It's called the Pink City, and it really does feel like stepping into a living painting. The palaces, the forts, the markets filled with fabrics, spices, and jewelry. It was vibrant and alive in every sense. I visited the Amber Fort, and I was amazed not only by the architecture, but by the stories behind it. History is everywhere, and people there love to share it. Even the shopkeepers will tell you stories passed down from generations.
So it sounds like both cities taught you something, just in very different ways.
Exactly. Varanasi taught me silence and reflection. Jaipur taught me curiosity and joy. And I think that's the beauty of India. Every region, every city has its own personality, its own rhythm. You can go from deep spiritual moments to joyful chaos within a day. I also loved walking through the old streets, talking to locals in English, learning the names of things I'd never seen before. It made me realize how travel is one of the best teachers. You don't just learn about others, you learn about yourself.
That's powerful, and it makes so much sense. When you combine travel with language learning, it's not just a trip, it's transformation.
It all becomes part of your story, part of you.
That's beautiful, Catherine. Your story is more than a travel diary, it's a lesson in how to live, learn, and connect.
Thank you, James. And to everyone listening, if you've made it this far, it means you're serious about learning. Remember, you don't need to be perfect to start. You just need to be consistent. Speak English every day. Join real conversations. Use this podcast as your daily practice. And if you want to go further, comment "I'm ready" and join our private group of learners who are practicing English together.
Until next time, keep listening, keep speaking, and keep rising. This is English Podcast Rise. the best place for your daily English speaking practice.